The NBA is finally back. Opening night's in the books, but Patrick and I are mostly going to be focusing today's episode on our top 10 point guard rankings. We're going to be doing every position over the next 5 weeks. Let's get into foul trouble.
James, this was extremely excruciating of a project to do, ranking these point guards.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's start with opening night thoughts real quick. I know we probably don't have much. So, I mean, the Celtics, Knicks, I think the Knicks will be fine. We both feel like that.
Yeah, they looked okay. Like, it was very obvious that they don't know how to, like, integrate Cat perfectly into their offense yet, which is something that will just...
Yeah. My only worry, which was my worry with the Bridges trade initially, was... Granted, the shot looks really wonky with him, so that might be playing into this. But the Bridges Anunoby redundancy, I do feel like is a little real out there. But I feel like if any team is the redundancy is okay argument, it would be the Celtics.
Yeah. The Celtics looked pretty good last night, I will say.
Yeah, and
I think if they can hit, 33s a game, they should
go undefeated.
Go undefeated, cakewalk to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics looked awesome. I do think there is a real chip on the shoulder with this team, and I'm usually not the one to really care about the kind of moxie, that kind of side, but it does feel like everyone on this team feels slighted, similar to that 2015 Warriors team where when they won the title, no one gave them credit, and they're like, okay, here's what we can really do, and I don't know. I do feel like a high 60 win season is a real possibility for this team if they can stay mostly healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've especially talked a lot on this podcast about how it just takes time to integrate big stars into your team. I reference how 2 years ago when the Timberwolves first incorporated Rudy Gobert with Cat, it looked really ugly. Then it took a year and everything looked fine. And I hadn't really thought about that through the prism of the Celtics. The Celtics made a gigantic trade right at the buzzer of last offseason, bringing in Drew Holiday. And they also brought Kristaps Porzingis in. And now we're a year removed. They have a playoff run under their belt. I totally agree with you. This team could threaten to have one of the highest win totals in the history of the NBA.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit before, but I just think that what makes them so hard to guard is just anyone on their team will shoot a three as long as they have just a tiny monochrome of space. And I just feel like the defensive discipline to keep up with that is going to be really, really, really tough. And I think Jason Tatum just jump shot looking way fixed in a league where it seems like everybody else managed to break their jump shots over the summer is just it's just a huge edge if Jason Tatum is hitting his jump shot again. Because last year they won the title with him shooting very poorly. But if he's going to get his jump shot back and be aggressive, it's.
I think MVP becomes in play.
In play, yeah. In the other game, Lakers looked way better than last year, despite shooting only 5 of 30 from 3-point. They still almost won by 10 points. I thought the Lakers looked really good, really cohesive.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch this whole game, but anytime you can take an established team like the Timberwolves and keep them to the low hundreds in scoring, that means you had really, really effective defense. And I feel like if you're a Lakers fan, you got to be feeling really good, especially with how Anthony Davis looked out there.
Yeah, Anthony Davis looked awesome. My only weird concern for the Lakers was I thought LeBron had moments where he looked kind of uber athletic still, his baseline cut for the Tomahawk Jam was way above the rim. But there was also a lot of plays where I'm wow, LeBron, I think this is going to be the last year, which makes me sad to say. But there's one where he has a one-on-one fast break with DiVincenzo, and he's not getting above the rim at all. And I'm
yeah, this isn't.
You look a little old, LeBron.
This isn't the LeBron I fell in love with.
You're not gonna LeBron's not supposed to get stopped one-on-one on a transition play by Dante DiVincenzo, who is a good defender, but it's LeBron James. I don't know. There was a few moments where I thought LeBron looked a little old. There was one moment where he tried to ISO and he got forced into a really awkward fadeaway, which we've seen from him, but it just didn't look quite as it kind of looked a lot more like him being oh, I wanted to get to the rim there.
Yeah. Something that I noticed in just box score watching that I think we should keep tabs on going throughout the season from the Timberwolves side is Jaden McDaniels, only 16 minutes tonight.
He looked really bad in that game last night.
And I think it was always on the table from when they brought in DiVincenzo that maybe Jaden McDaniels was that next player out. And this is on the heels of Rudy Gobert signing a 3-year extension last year. Just something to keep in mind. Jaden McDaniels really might be the next piece to move out of Timberwolves land and might be their chip that they push into the center if they're looking to get like another really high level score.
Yeah, I think the Timberwolves need to. The offense looked a bit weird. The spacing looked a bit rough, but a lot of it did seem like lack of cohesion. / Ant is a little too in love with his jump shot at times. Just wish sometimes he would try to get to the rim a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, the Ant, that's the sneaky thing about him. He is not a like super superior 3-point long range shooter. And at times he was able to kind of summon that last year, but he's a 35% 3-point shooter. And I think he's with the spacing is just going to be a little bit worse this year, especially with like new people and them still getting used to each other. So if that dips close to what it had been in the past, more of like a 32% shooter, teams are going to let him shoot because they don't want to risk their bigs getting in foul trouble or just, you know, they would just rather him take that shot. And if he falls in love with it, that's not a good thing for the Timberwolves.
Yep, and that was opening night. Patrick and I are recording this on Wednesday morning, so we have not seen day 2, but oh, wow, the Suns beat the Kawhi-less Clippers.
You're going to jinx me. You're just going to jinx me.
Oh, the Sixers got obliterated without Paul George play.
The Tyrese Maxey masterclass.
Okay, should we get into our top 10 point guards?
Let's get into our top 10 point guards.
Okay.
How was this exercise for you?
So, really easy for me to do my top 3.5. Really hard for me to do my 5 through 10. But before we get to it, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to say it before every one of these for this exercise. Patrick and I are going strictly off what their positions are as of basically the 23rd of October. So for some guys, it might get a little weird when we're on the power forwards and centers episode. For example, Kyrie Irving is a shooting guard as per the Mavericks. So Kyrie Irving will not be on our top 10 point guards list because he will be in consideration for the shooting guards episode. This is going to get really weird with some teams. For example, the Phoenix Suns have Devin Booker listed as a small forward. I don't think anyone listening or me and Patrick considers him a small forward, but that is his listed position and he will be considered for the small forwards episode. Just to clarify, because I feel like in every one of these, there's going to be a lot of like, whoa.
Yeah, they didn't include Devin Booker in their top 10 shooting guards.
Yes,
It's just not his role this year. And we're just trying to be as accurate as possible. And we'll probably re-rank these people
at some point
at the end of the season. So if the role changes, we are willing to grow with that, but we're just taking the information that we have.
So I guess right ahead of going into number 10, is there anyone other than Kyrie Irving that you feel like we should mention is not in this episode solely because of position?
Not really. I think the point guards were kind of like, I think, going to be the most straightforward other than centers. And then the other 3 positions kind of all fluctuate within each other. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. I guess, do you want to start at 10 or do you want to start at who just missed the cut?
Let's start at 10 because I don't want to give any spoilers.
Okay. At number 10, I had Damian Lillard.
At number 10, I had Trae Young. I had Damian Lillard at number 9.
I had Trae Young at number 9.
Yeah, so right there, these are 2 like extreme offensive engines that are kind of on opposite sides of their careers. One's on a really great team. One is on a team that just had the first pick in the NBA draft. Why don't we start with Dame? Why'd you put Dame at 10?
Okay. So Dame averaged over 24 a game and over 7 assists. He still stuffed the box score. I thought watching him on film, he still looks really fast. He still looks pretty bouncy at times. I think his leadership is still a real asset for these teams. But secretly, Damian Lillard's jump shot like kind of totally fell off last year. He was 35% from 3. And that actually wasn't even a product of like self-creation or openness. He wasn't good from like any segment of openness. Even on wide open shots, he was under 40% last year. He was pretty bad shooting at the mid-range for, his caliber of player. I still have him in my top 10 because of the ability to, get to the mid-20s in scoring, create for others using his athleticism and his handle. And I do believe the shooting will come back. It's just really weird for me that Damian Lillard just forgot how to shoot. And I think part of that might be playing in Milwaukee. He had a really weird year last year. But also, in terms of Lillard versus Young, Trey actually got his usage rate down into the mid 30s after being in the high 30s for most of his career, which I really liked for Trey. That was one of our biggest criticisms of him, was just usage rate being a little too high. And I think Trey is maybe the NBA's single worst defender, but Lillard is one of the worst.
Much better.
Yeah, is one of the worst screen navigators in the entire NBA as well. So even though I think I'd rather have Lillard on defense, it's not like he's giving me much either way. And so I think, do you want to talk about Dame, or should I go into my Trey? Why I kind of like Trey a little bit more.
Yeah, real quick, I'll just say, like, the reason why I ended up having Dame above Trey is just the shooting is a little bit more consistent from Damian Lillard. Although it dipped last year, I think there's definitely room for it to kind of go back to right around that, like, 37, 38 place. Dame's taking still a lot of threes per game. He's still taking, where is it? Close to eight attempts per game. So it makes sense that his efficiency isn't like right there. Another thing that I think puts Dame in this like super elite class of point guards is he still gets to the line pretty well. 7 free throw attempts per game, and he's just like absolutely elite from there.
Yeah, he actually shot a career high at the free throw line, which was something I looked at because I was like, is the free throw going down too? But no.
Yeah, and then the other thing is just Dame. I kind of put him at 9 reputationally in just he's still an elite clutch player, and he really elevated himself once he got to the playoffs. He only played 6 games in the playoffs, but was playing a super high minutes load of 41 minutes per game and 34 points per game. He had his 3-point percentage got all the way up to almost 45%. So I thought that was enough to push him to that 9 spot for me. But he's also always getting injured, much more of an injury liability than Trae Young tends to be. And I think at the end of this year, he could easily find himself out of this top 10 list, or maybe a little bit higher. But yeah, lay out the Trae Young.
Yeah, so for all of these guys, especially in the bottom 6 of this top 10, I did ranges just because I'm not like again, this was a difficult exercise. I thought it was really difficult to parse between a lot of these players and definitively rank them. So in my range of outcomes, I feel like Dame could be as high as 9, but as low as 12 or below.
Yeah, that's
kind of where I comfortably feel like. Trey, my range, I honestly feel like I could have Trey as high as 7, but as low as 11. I feel like you could make an argument for him out of the top 10. Because of his efficiency scoring, like Trey is 56% at the rim, 45% for mid-range. We've talked about how he's not really the most elite three-point shooter, but what made me put Trey ahead of Dame is I do feel like at this stage of their careers, Trey is a player that you can kind of just build an offense around that we know will be pretty good. Trey's maybe one of the best passers on this whole list of point guards, if not like the best or second best passer, which I think we could make an argument for a couple of these guys. But like Trey, so he led the league with just under 20% of his passes turning into assists.
So stupid.
Yeah, he led the NBA on like potential assists, like assist points created. And part of that is Trey being this heliocentric engine. But I feel like for Trey to still be at like most assist points created, most potential assists, such a high assist percentage, while dropping his usage rate down, to me suggests his kind of understanding of the game, getting his teammates involved, is getting better with age. And he's not just this player who's just, standing around at a 40% usage rate like someone else I have above him on this list. But yeah, I think Trey's just a better offensive engine at this stage of his career, despite the efficiency woes.
Totally agree. The other thing that I love about Trey is really he's a playoff dude. I think some of these guys, we haven't really seen it from them in the playoffs. But last time we saw Trae Young in the playoffs, he was playing against the Boston Celtics, a team that on paper is like built in a lab to stop what he does. And he put 29, 10, and 3 on them and pushed them all the way to 6 games. And it easily could have been pushed to 7 games in that series from, 2023. But yeah, I mean, Trae Young is just, also the personnel around him has not been doing him any favors. Pairing up a super high usage guy like Trae Young with another true point guard in DeJounte Murray it was never gonna work. Maybe it could have, but they were not setting him up for success. But I think, yeah, the real reason we have both of these guys is as the bottom 2 people in our top 10 list is they have all the offensive skills to put them in competition with any of these other guys we're going to talk about later in the list. But the defense is what kind of caps both of their ceilings.
The defense is not there for either of these guys, but also for both of these guys, the scoring efficiency isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, for those of you that haven't checked out Trey's like percentages, last year he was shooting 43, 37, 85, which is actually like a really, really great year for him, especially from 3 to shoot 37% was an all-time high for him. I don't know if he can sustain that. Maybe if we see it for another year, then I think maybe he could threaten to get a little bit higher on this list. But I think this is, especially with the youth that follows us on this list, that I don't really see him climbing higher than this over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think it's really it's not even a detriment to Trey. It's just a testament to how good the NBA is that a guy who's shooting 37% on 3 with such high volume, such high self-creation is 9. Because normally those would be amazing numbers. But spoiler, we've got a guy like Luka who's shooting 40% on the lowest assisted rate of his threes, which means they're all self-created. So it just goes to show how talented the NBA is. But who did you have at number 8?
At number 8, I had De'Aaron Fox.
So did I.
There we go.
Okay, let's get to De'Aaron. He averaged 26.6, 5.6 assists, 4.6 rebounds. So I think the problem with De'Aaron is the in my head version of De'Aaron is a lot better than the like, let me take a look at all the under the hood stats and everything. De'Aaron, like, he's not a good 3-point shooter still. I think he still takes way too many mid-range jump shots for like how fast he is. But I do think De'Aaron is this kind of presence where he's running off handoffs. The problem is with De'Aaron, I just feel like when I think of him, I'm thinking of that Warriors-Kings series, and that wasn't last year. That was 2 years ago. And the jump shot really wasn't really there last season. But I think De'Aaron's a pretty good defensive player. I think he's kind of a pest on defense. I do like his ability to create for himself pretty much at any time. But I'm like, what kind of kept him out of the like top 7 for me is like, I feel like the playmaking's not quite there. I think too much of it's overloaded onto his big. But like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I wish he would kind of play with the speed that he has all the time. He's been ticking up his 3-point attempts per game every single season pretty much of his career. And he got all the way up to 36, almost 37% last year, which is a huge win for Kings fans. One thing I love about De'Aaron is he's just like, when he's locked in and he's defending on ball, he has great hands. Like, I really think he can stand with any of these guys from a defensive perspective. But yeah, we just haven't seen like the high level, like him do it on the highest stage. He was okay. He was pretty good in the one playoff series that we saw him in against the Warriors 2 years ago. 27 points per game, 7 assists, 2 steals, which I love. But I don't know. I wish he could force the issue and become really the main engine on this offense.
Yeah.
And which is just something we haven't seen him take the reins from Sabonis yet and do that.
I agree. I'm glad we both had De'Aaron at 8 because I actually spent the most time in this exercise parsing between my 7 and De'Aaron Fox. And I have 5 points on why I thought 7 was better than De'Aaron because I felt like I had to justify it. But who did you have at 7?
I had John Morant. Who did you have at 7?
I had Tyrese Maxey.
Okay.
Yeah, Tyrese Maxey's awesome.
Tyrese Maxey is so awesome. You know what? You want to know where I had Tyrese Maxey?
Yes.
I had Tyrese Maxey at 5.
I wanted to put Maxey at 5. Wow, you had him at 5. I wanted to put him there. I just felt like I needed to see it a little
playoffs.
bit more.
I was like so not completely sold on Tyrese Maxey. Why'd you have Tyrese Maxey at 7?
Okay. The reason I had him at 7 is more just because I felt like you wanted me to justify him over De'Aaron or why I had him behind 5 and 6.
I mean, maybe justify him over De'Aaron first, even though I'm totally sold on him over De'Aaron.
Yeah. So what puts him ahead of De'Aaron is like his ability to shoot the 3, and he's taking more shots at the rim. So they're both fast, but like Maxey is using his speed more effectively to create rim shots, and also like the speed coupled with the unreal shooting ability makes him maybe the most difficult like cover for like an average athlete in the NBA. He shot 58% on corner threes. So here's the thing. Maxey averaged 1.18 points per spot up, De'Aaron at 0.98. So like just a significantly better shooter. And there's like the one thing De'Aaron's better at is like isolating, but like they're running both of these guys, Maxey and De'Aaron, are running pick and rolls almost 3 times the rate they're isolating. And Maxey's averaging more points in the pick and roll. Maxey's averaging almost a full more point per possession in transition, which they both do than isolate. Maxey's better on handoff actions, which is kind of what you think of when you think of the Kings, is like the Sabonis Fox handoffs. Like Maxey's better on handoffs. The other thing, Maxey's 100th percentile in turnover percentage. He just doesn't turn the ball over.
Yeah, 6.8% turnover percentage is just like filthy for this level of point guard.
Yeah, and he was just awesome in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. He scored 46 points in one of these playoff games.
Also, the game where he just bailed the Sixers out, scored like 6 points in the final, 20 seconds, deep threes. I mean, Maxey's just an unbelievable cover. The reason I was a little bit hesitant to put Maxey ahead of a guy like Ja is just the Sixers, and it's kind of tough because the Sixers just had no rim protection when Embiid was hurt, and I do think some of the Maxey's better on handoffs than De'Aaron. Like part of me is like, I want to see it for one more season just to make sure that's not just Embiid being bigger than Sabonis, and yeah, we all think of Sabonis as a better passer than Embiid, but on a handoff action, I think Embiid is a little bit more of a tough task for the defense to handle than Sabonis. Hot take. Embiid's better than Sabonis.
Whoa.
But
Anthony Davis would not agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Maxey's just this unbelievably tough cover with the jump shot and speed coupled.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, part of this list for me was you're really splitting hairs any way that you go. And I just felt like at a certain point, it was like, if I'm building my team for next year and I want to win a championship, who do I feel good about fitting in with any kind of player? And more than a lot of these guys, I felt like Tyrese Maxey fit the bill. I mean, in the playoffs, Joel Embiid had a 35% usage rate, and he's still dropping 29 points per game. Yeah. That takes a super, super smart player, a super efficient player, a guy that knows when he has to step up and when he can relinquish the reins a little bit. And yeah, like you said, it's just shooting. Shooting is the most important thing. And I think there's a lot of area for him to grow. I mean, I know they added a pretty high usage player in Paul George, but if I'm deciding who I want with the ball in the fourth quarter between any of these guys, I probably want the action to start with Maxey because he's just so dangerous from all over the place. And I really believe in his ability to get his guys where they need to be as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real argument that Maxey's just straight up better than Paul George when you're factoring in the playoff game-to-game consistency over the last 2 years. We've seen Paul George have some spectacular playoff moments, but Maxey game-to-game the last 2 playoffs has been just incredible. Then I wanted to put Maxey higher. I just kind of was I'm a little afraid.
Yeah.
I was a little okay, I don't know if he could replicate who I have at number 6. You had Ja at 7.
Yeah, I had Ja at 7.
Ja was the hardest player for me to rank because obviously we saw him for 9 games. I had him at 5.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, 4 to 7 for me. And I'll even just rattle off the players. You probably can imagine who they are. The Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton,
Ja Morant
tier is just they're all so close. They're all elite offensive engines. They differ they have different strengths. And I had Ja at the bottom of the tier, not to get sports talking head-y, but who would you rather be a teammate of any of these guys?
Oh, all of them over Ja.
All of them over Ja. Who do you rely on off the court to, be a leader? I would rely on all of these guys over Ja. And Ja's an incredible scorer. I mean, this guy he offers rim protection. He's an incredible scorer. The Grizzlies have been able to design a super, super elite defense around him who he doesn't have the best weight base on him. And he's still able to survive and keep that defense up there. But that was kind of like my splitting hair that had me put him at 7, despite his like just incredible offensive abilities. He attacks the rim like nobody else. He's one of the most exciting players to watch in the NBA. Also, I want to see him have a little bit more consistency shooting from 3.
Yeah, so Ja's coming off the last 3 seasons, including the 9-game season, 27 points per game, 26 points per game, 25 points per game. So I guess this year he's going to average 24. But no, I mean, the thing with Ja that I feel like he's always been a little bit of an underrated passer. I think his wraparound passes on his drives is like really underrated. I mean, Ja's like a guy who's averaging close to 10 assists when he's playing.
His ability to leave his feet and then find the perfect pass is like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think like I know this is one of the ones where I'm having trouble because like statistically it's hard to make an argument right now for Ja over Maxey, especially as a scorer. But like I feel like Ja's maybe a little bit more impactful in the way he can kind of force the issue every game. I do think of this tier of the Brunson, Halliburton, Maxey, Ja tier, he definitely has the most defensive upside. I don't know if he's the best possession-to-possession defender, but he does have the ability to get like chase down blocks and transition. We've seen that a lot, and I think those highlight plays, especially for a young team that he plays on, that's a little bit older now, is kind of invigorating. My worry for Ja is every single year he's taking less shots at the rim, although he's getting a little bit more efficient finishing at the rim. He's taking a lot more shots from mid-range, and he's getting better at his mid-range jump shot. He's in like the mid-40s, so it's not a bad shot, but he's kind of a disaster from 3.
Yeah, 30% from 3. And for a guy that only shoots 30% from 3 to only have about 8 free throw attempts a game, like that's not enough for me.
My worry with Ja, and the reason he was the hardest player for me to rank, is I feel like he's going to be awesome, but I'm worried we're either like 1, 2, or 3 seasons away from like a small athleticism dip, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this guy's Westbrook.
Yeah, that's definitely in the like multiverse of options that Ja could fall into.
Yeah, and I mean the thing though with Ja, I don't want to put it like that, because the difference between Ja and Westbrook to me is like Ja's always been a better rim finisher than Westbrook was statistically. Like Westbrook, even in his MVP year, was never that great finishing at the rim. Ja's like in the high 60s, so he's like an elite rim finisher, even though he's taking less attempts.
The other thing about these guys, and why I think why I had Ja a little bit lower, is like the guys that I referenced, the Tyrese's and Jalen. These guys, like, they can play next to a lot different like archetypes of players. Like I think each one of those other guys other than Ja can play next to a much higher usage player, don't necessarily have to have the kind of like game-changing three-point shooting around them that I think Ja kind of needs to succeed.
I think what I like about Ja and what I kind of like about Jalen Brunson that I don't love about Halliburton and Maxey is, even though Ja is a bit slight like Halliburton and Maxey, I feel like he does have the kind of muscular strength to kind of bounce off contact in a way that like Brunson's able to kind of like weave and bob and smash off of the defenders and kind of get into the paint. Whereas with Maxey, it feels like it's all speed and a little bit of physicality can kind of throw things off at time. I like that Ja is like the possession to possession, the consistency to just get downhill, create for others, I think is why I have him at 5. So does that mean we both have Halliburton at 6?
Yes, sir. Okay, let me pull up my Tyrese Halliburton notes.
You've just got a laundry list.
I mean, you know, I love Tyrese Halliburton. I think the most surprising thing about Tyrese Halliburton, a guy that led the league in assist percentage last year, is just like it led the league in assists. His usage rate is only 24.6. Like, to have that kind of like raw numbers production without just completely monopolizing the ball is something that, frankly, I think only a guy like Tyrese Halliburton can do. Tyrese, he averaged 20, 10, and 3.4 rebounds last year on 47, 36, 85 shooting. I think he can improve all of those percentages. He's still kind of finding his way as a superstar in this league. And he had a really disjointed season last year, which I think just lends him to probably being able to, figure it out a little bit easier next year. And to speak a little bit more on the usage rate, his usage rate puts him around guys like CJ McCollum, Miles Bridges, Scotty Barnes. I think if you got him on a team with like an A1 superstar in this league, he would only get better, which is another thing I'm going to keep coming back to. Like, especially this is our point guards episode. Your point guard, your superstar point guard, littles don't win championships in this league. You have to have a superstar point guard that can play and amplify the production of an amazing big, of a like amazing predatory wing. And I think Tyrese Halliburton is perfectly that.
Yeah, I love Halliburton. The reason I had him above Maxey is because I do think he's just a better passer, and I kind of think that's an annoying way to do it. But I think like Halliburton is creating a lot of like nice looks for his teammates. I don't know if the reason I'm a little lower on Halliburton, like why I didn't have him above Ja myself, is like I don't know if Halliburton can really kick his usage rate up with his scoring bag. I think it is a little limited, but I mean he's averaging 20 on really efficient shooting. He's one of the league's best shooters. He's a great pick and roll ball handler. The Pacers averaging 105 points per 100 on those possessions, but yeah, I mean, Halliburton's awesome. I think defensively, he's a bit limited in the way a lot of these guys are. He's really thin and slight.
He has really, really great hands, though. He like might have some of the best hands, like at least steals wise, on this entire list.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I like about Halliburton is his ability to kind of create transition where there isn't transition off like a defensive rebound or maybe even the other team scoring. His ability to kind of use his passing to kind of just put the Pacers in a transition possession, whereas other teams might just be walking the ball up. And his ability to kind of just keep the offense afloat. And like the Pacers just, I feel like all season were pretty disrespected, and yet they kept winning. They go all the way to the ECF. Granted, the Knicks were injured, but like, the Pacers look good early in that series too. Like, I don't know.
Everyone picked the Knicks to win knowing that they were injured, and the Pacers still won. Like, you got to give them some credit for that.
Yeah, in light of that, because people did know the Knicks were injured and still picked them, I feel like the Pacers deserve their credit there. But man, the point guards list is so stacked for us to have a guy like Tyrese Halliburton 6.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that he's doing is quite frankly stuff that we have only seen once or twice in NBA history in terms of like being able to average 20 or more points per game and still averaging double digits assist. And the other thing about Tyrese Halliburton that is insane is passing the ball as much as he does and averaging only a hair over 2 turnovers a game is just filthy work, like true point god stuff from Tyrese Halliburton.
No, Halliburton's awesome. I love Halliburton. Yeah, and Halliburton, like Halliburton's a guy who's like, I could see Halliburton as high as 4.
Yeah.
I think you can make a real argument for Halliburton over Brunson myself. Not that I did. I had Brunson at 4, but yeah, I think Halliburton deserves that much respect.
Yeah, totally. And I also had Jalen Brunson at 4. Who did you have at 5?
John Morant.
Okay. So yeah, I had Jalen Brunson 4, Maxey, Halliburton, Morant, and then
I had Brunson 4, Morant 5, Halliburton 6, Maxey 7.
Okay, so we're in pretty close agreement on our lists for the most part. Jalen Brunson, the mayor of New York City. He didn't have a great night last night, but last season really just took his status from star to total superstar in this league, averaging 28 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds on 47, 40, 84 shooting. This is a guy that can get to the line really effectively in the opportunities that he has.
I have a crazy stat with his getting to the line.
Tell me.
Brunson gets fouled on 12% of his shots and converts 40% of his shooting fouls into and ones.
That is insane.
Almost tops of the league. That's a crazy number.
He plays with such strength. I think he's a little underrated on defense. I think the idea of Jalen Brunson doesn't really lend itself to the reality, and like you can't pick on him in a way that you can pick on a Trae Young or a Damian Lillard. And then just like his pure playoff production for a point guard last season is something that we've never really seen. I ran a search just to find what point guards have averaged 32 or more points in a playoff run. It's only been done by 8 guys, and Jalen Brunson's playoff run last year was the only run of any of them above, like, of more than 10 games played. He played 13 games and was able to sustain 32 points per game. That's all-time playoff production right there. And I think there's no reason why we should believe that that's not replicable. He's an offensive engine in himself on a Knicks team that didn't really have any other clear, like, things that you were trying to stop. Like, it was stop Jalen Brunson or lose to the Knicks, and the teams could not stop Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, no, Brunson's awesome. And I think what's crazy, too, is we all think of Jalen Brunson as like this little isolation king. But crazy enough, he's actually not the most efficient isolation player. But this is where Brunson gets crazy. He's averaging 1.43 per spot-up shot attempt.
Yeah, that's
like a Jalen Brunson catch-and-shoot jumper is like the best shot in the entire NBA. It was better than Steph Curry last year.
And that's another reason it's so easy to build around Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, like, and I think that's the crazy thing is, like, we saw that version of Jalen Brunson in Dallas, and it was really awesome. And I think that's what is such a good argument for Brunson is he can either be this offensive engine who's, you know, completely taking over a game, or if the Knicks were to ever, you know, obviously they've already made these big trades, but if he were to play alongside a, you know, superstar wing, he would also be able to just fit seamlessly into that role, also put up huge numbers, up his efficiency more than it is. And I just think what makes Brunson special compared to a Maxey or a Halliburton to me is like, it's just this ability to, like, you know, catch and shoot. He's got that. The, you know, get to the rim. He's got that. The craftiness. He's got that. The ability to play in this really physical setting where he doesn't have to rely on athleticism. He's got that. And it kind of feels like he can scale to any type of basketball game.
Yeah, totally agree. His malleability is his biggest skill. I mean, Jalen Brunson is just an absolute superstar who did not even have a chance to break our top 3 in this point guard rankings.
Yeah, because at number 3, I have who I thought is the best point guard of all time.
Mr. Wardell Stephen Curry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got him there too.
I
don't quite have him as best point guard all time, but he's right there, and he definitely slapped us in the face this summer and said, hey, bitches, I am still fucking here.
Yeah, I do think there was a little bit of concerning numbers. Like, his attempts at the rim are going way down in a way where I'm like, this might be the last great Curry season, but, like, he's still the league's single best off-the-ball weapon.
Yeah.
He averaged 1.37 points per possession on any play he came off a screen. That, again, would be like the best play in the NBA other than a Jalen Brunson spot up. 1.10 points per ISO. He's basically as good as Shea in isolation. I mean, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
I think there's a real argument he could still be the second best point guard.
Yeah. I mean, he could get there. His infrastructure makes it a lot more difficult for him to get there, other than the top 2 guys on this list. But you know what else he's great at that we haven't even brought up yet? Is he's a really great 3-point shooter.
Yeah, he's really good at shooting threes. He's really good finishing
11 attempts per game, was still shooting 40% from 3, and he's no mystery in this league. Everyone knows you got to try to stop Steph from shooting, and you just can't. I mean, he's an elite offensive engine even till today. I think he's gotten himself to such an amazing place physically that he's not a pigeon on defense in the way that I think in the earlier Golden State years he kind of was.
Yeah.
And could be switched on. Like we saw LeBron do that many, many times. And he's one of the best free throw shooters of all time, which is incredible. And I mean, one of my favorite things about Steph is, of any of the guys on this list, maybe of any point guard all time, he is probably the best screener on this list. He plays off ball better than any other guy here. I mean, he's Stephen Curry. He's incredible.
Yeah, that's the thing with this point guards list is it's less fun to talk about the top 3 guys because we've already parsed between them on like every other episode so many times. But yeah, I mean, Steph Curry, he's 3. I think there's a real argument he could be. My range of ranking him would be 2 or 3.
Yeah, I would not put him 1.
Yeah, I don't think I could put him 1 over my number 1 guy. But I think Curry is just this incredible off-the-ball weapon. I do think this is a year. I mean, the game with Curry is old. I think we're going to see, some signs of aging and fatigue this year. Like his rim attempts will probably go down. I think they were all the way down to 14% of a shot of his attempts were at the rim last year, which means he's going to be getting fouled less. He's going to be, maybe a little less efficient in 2-point range, but like still the league's best 3-point weapon, the off the ball, the movement, everything about it. I mean, everyone knows Steph Curry.
And can fit it next to any talent.
Yeah.
He could fit next to absolutely any talent. Even like a Luka Doncic, I think he would be amazing next to.
Yeah, and I think like of all of these point guards, his single 3-point shooting weapon is a way that amplifies other players. Like the way a Halliburton can amplify his teammates or Trey can amplify his teammates with his passing, like Steph can amplify his teammates with his off the ball like weaponry.
Totally.
Number 2, you had Shea?
Yes, I did.
What is there to say?
I mean, the one thing, these next two guys are the 1A, 1B MVP picks for this year. It's Luka, it's Shea. You guys all knew that coming into this episode. And I think for Shea, just the one thing is like, can we keep building? I mean, he's coming off 2 straight seasons of averaging 30 or more points per game. He has been on basically the best team in the West over the last 2 years, which has been probably the most talented conference that we've ever seen. And I just look at what he was able to do from 3 in the playoffs last year, shooting 40% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. If he can be anywhere close to that in the regular season, I think we get into the territory of point guard scoring seasons that we have never seen before. And that's kind of how I think he wins an MVP. Also, this guy, he led the league in steals last year, is, I think, reputationally, like he's a better defender than he is reputationally. Still, he came into the league being like, oh yeah, this is like your point guard stopper. And his role on offense has grown so much that it's a little hard to do that consistently. But I mean, this guy's unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 1.21 points per transition. That's like tops in the league. He was also a player sneakily just an elite off the ball shooter, 1.21 points per spot up shot. I mean, we've gone over it. He was the best ISO scorer in the league last year. Yeah, I mean, Shea can do everything, and I've noticed in the preseason the Thunder have made an emphasis of him shooting more threes. To be honest, I don't know if that's the best thing for Shea. Like, structurally, I think it is nice for the Thunder to have a guy who can just torment other teams in the mid-range and open up for teammates through that way. But Shea, he's a great reactive passer. I don't think he's the most proactive passer. He might be like, I don't know where you'd rank him as just a passer on this list, but his scoring ability opens up his passing in a way where it's okay for him to not be the most proactive passer because defenses are just, if he has the ball, defenses are scared.
Yeah, I mean, and you just can't stop him. Going down the lane, he slices through the defense like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, and he's got great size and strength, which is great for his finishing. His ability to kind of just stop on a dime and elevate for the mid-range. And his mid-range is just so good.
So silky. So good. Yeah, it's like big Chris Paul. That's big prime Chris Paul from the mid-range, which is just an absolute cheat code in itself. He's another one of these guys that's like a total free throw merchant. Like he can get, like if he can get back to where he was 2 seasons ago of having 10 free throw attempts per game, and he's a really, really good free throw shooter at that. That just makes the math of beating this Thunder team even more difficult. I mean, I don't know what else you can really say about Shea. I think he's headed to the Hall of Fame. Like this guy is really, really, really good.
Yeah. Shea is amazing. He's a top 5 overall player in the NBA. I don't think anyone would dispute that. And at number 1, I had Luka Doncic.
I did too.
How
do you beat a gigantic just point guard, like just a perfect offensive basketball player, basically?
Yeah, I think he's the best scorer in the NBA right now. I honestly don't know who you would even, I guess Embiid is the only other argument, but like Luka's shooting 76% at the rim, tops in the league, 39% from 3, and he's only being assisted on 30% of those shots, which is basically bottom in the league for how often someone's setting you up for threes. 50% from mid-range. He gets fouled on over 15% of his shots. He's converting those into and ones at a 30% rate. I mean, I also think he's the best passer on the whole list. I think a lot of people might feel Trey or Halliburton, but for me, like the statistical reason Luka's like assist to pass ratio might be a little bit lower is just because like he's just a way better scorer than those guys. Like he doesn't need to pass it as much because he's able to create like efficient looks no matter where he is on the court at all times. I just think his wraparound pass ability, his ability to pass over double teams, his vision, his speed, the variety of angles he can pass from is just better than both Halliburton and Trey. Like, I just think he's both the best passer and the best overall scorer on the whole list.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has the case for both. And I mean, also his rebounding ability is insane. To be able to depend from your point guard position on 10 rebounds per game. And these aren't like fake, Russell Westbrook rebounds. It's like he's a forward-sized person, so he can get 10 rebounds a game on the amount of minutes that he's playing. And if he's shooting 40% from three, it's just like, it's another guy.
It's over.
What can you do? But that added rebounding, that added passing acumen is why he's above two guys like Shea and Steph, who are some of the best scorers that we've seen in the last 25 years in the NBA. But Luka brings all of that. Plus, maybe, and I think him on defense is a little overstated.
Like defensively, all the stats said the Mavs were actually a pretty good defense when Luka was on the court. I think a lot of the getting just embarrassed in the playoffs was the injury. He was not healthy the whole playoff run.
Yeah, the injury, and they're just going at him over and over and over again. And the NBA is too talented of a league to be targeted over and over and over again and not just yield offense to the other team.
That's almost a testament to how good he is on offense, that the strategy is hey, you have to exhaust this guy because otherwise he's going to torch you for 4 quarters. And also, he's the only guy in this entire list that has a post-up game.
Yeah.
And by post-up game, he has a wickedly efficient post-up game that other teams are afraid of. And I think that's the big thing too, is when your point guard can just post up literally anybody, it creates a whole nother dimension to the Mavs offense that none of these other guys on this list can say.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see Luka continue to grow just into his man body over the next couple of years and see how schematically that changes what Dallas does on defense, because I think he could get to a place where he's guarding bigger players more effectively and I don't know, eventually I think teams are going to give up on trying to just target him over and over again, because just as he gets older, it's going to be harder and harder and harder.
Yeah. And I think another Luka stat that's just I think Shea is just amazing. Shea's an all-time player, but I feel people aren't necessarily grasping just how historically great Luka is. He was the most double-teamed player last year. He was the most hedged, guys are sitting double on screen so Luka doesn't keep the ball. The Hawks for one game were what if we don't double this guy? And he went for 70 on no missed shots in 3 quarters. He's such an unbelievable scorer. The diversity of scoring, his shot chart, it's just red everywhere.
Yeah. Also, best lobber since Magic Johnson, probably.
Yeah, it just is a way to create lobs when lobs aren't there. If this guy played with Victor Wembanyama, we'd have to just take a couple years off.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't even be fair.
Yeah. So that's our list. We both had Luka 1, Shea 2, Steph 3, Jalen 4. You had Maxey at 5. I had Morant. We both have Halliburton 6. I had Maxey 7. You had Morant. 8, we both had De'Aaron. 9, you had Lillard. I had Young. And 10, I had Lillard. You had Young. The 2 other guys I considered for this list were Drew Holiday and Jamal Murray.
Yeah, pretty much. I looked at Cade. I just wanted to see what was going on over there. The scoring wasn't quite there yet, but I think he's a guy that could maybe get on this list in the future. Other than that, I don't think anyone really had a great pitch, but we are in a really great time for point guards in this league.
Yeah, I guess real quickly, the reason I didn't have Drew was I just felt he scaled up so much on this just overly stacked Celtics team. And I was all right, let's go back a year. It's he looked like a mess at times on the Bucks, an absolute offensive. He was horrible in the playoffs offensively for the Bucks, the entire Bucks tenure.
Yeah, Drew's obviously on another level defensively than any of these guys, but I think if you were to swap any of these guys with Drew, they would do pretty well on that Celtics team.
Yeah, I think the one guy who I'm okay, maybe he's not quite as good on that Celtics team is Trae Young. I don't really know what Trae Young's role is on that team. But which I think
it would be very different.
Yeah, and I think that's what made Trae Young the hardest player to rank other than Ja for me, was just he's such an offensive engine, but it's weird that he would probably make the Celtics worse Whereas I don't think any of these other guys would necessarily like really change things for the Celtics.
Or anything.
And then Jamal Murray, I haven't seen him play well. Seems like the new physicality is not great for him.
He's been really great in a couple playoff series, but am I off base to say like I need an elite regular season to put him with these other guys? Like, if you put any of these guys next to Jokic, what do you think they're going to do in the playoffs?
Kill it.
Yeah, they're going to be incredible. Like, Jamal Murray is obviously a really talented player, but he's also playing next to the biggest amplifier that we've seen since prime LeBron. So I'm going to need you to really force the issue for me, Jamal Murray, if you want me to take you seriously on a top 10 point guard list in the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah, and I will say, I think we saw the Timberwolves figure out the whole like, wow, Jamal Murray's the only guy in this team who can, dribble the ball. Like, let's go at him. And I think what kind of really made me take me off the list was like, there was a couple games in the Timberwolves series where Anthony Edwards just stole the ball multiple times. Like, I'm sorry, he's not doing that to, as we saw Luka. He's not doing that to, as we saw like John Morant.
Yeah, no way.
Okay. Best take, worst take?
Best take, worst take.
All right. The segment where we go over the best and worst takes of the NBA week.
The last week of the NBA. I have a best take. My best take for this week is going to Josh Hart, who after the Celtics game yesterday said that the NBA needs to drug test all of them. I'll tell you that right now. I ain't ever seen nothing like that before. And I agree, Josh. I would be saying the exact same thing. That was just so stupid what the Celtics did. Literally tie the NBA record of three-pointers made in a game for a team in the first game of the season.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I totally forgot we were doing this, but we did end up having the same worst take. You know what? Best take, me. Lakers, I could see them as the 1 seed. That's where they currently sit.
They're the 1 seed today. You got me, man.
Lakers and Celtics at the top. The NBA needs some new script writers.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do.
Okay, we both did the same worst take because we talked about it before the show. Kenny the Jet Smith, his top 50 players list
is just insane. Specifically his top 20. First off, just right off the bat, the thing that really grabs your eye is that he's got LeBron James as his second best player in the NBA.
Ahead of Jokic,
ahead of Shea, ahead of Joel Embiid, ahead of Luka. He's only got Giannis ahead of him. It's such a weird thing to like go through all of this. You've got Giannis 1 and LeBron 2.
Can I say, I don't even think it's the most offensive thing in the top 20. I think Anthony Davis at 19.
Yeah, no, that's
Anthony Davis is worse than James Harden right now.
Not only is Anthony Davis worse than James Harden, Jalen Brunson, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, all worse than James Harden. He's got James Harden at 14, AD at 19, Jalen Brunson at 18, Book at 17, and Donovan Mitchell at 16. Like, I don't know how you could possibly be so high.
Drew Holiday is 5 spots better than Jimmy Butler. We're literally 1 year away removed from Jimmy Butler scoring 50 points effortlessly against Drew multiple times.
When I first
what are we doing here?
I remembered that the Inside Guys did top 50 player rankings. So I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, like Chuck's got to be crazy. And it was pretty okay. Normal. Yeah, it was pretty normal. And I was like, okay, Shaq's is going to be crazy. I did not have it on my bingo card that Kenny the Jet Smith would release literally the worst top 50 player rankings of any like major media talking head.
This is so bad.
It's so bad. Why James Harden? I think it's got to be like some Rockets loyalty right there.
Jimmy Butler at 27, like why is Paul George ahead of Jimmy Butler? Can someone tell me that?
I don't know. Would you rather have Anthony Edwards or Jaylen Brown?
Would you rather have LaMelo Ball at 32 or Zion Williamson at 41?
Damn, he hates Zion. What did Zion do to Kenny the Jet Smith?
Wait, how is Paolo Banchero 21 and Zion is 41?
I mean, what about Kawhi at 15? Kawhi can't even get on the court.
This is so bad. This is so bad. I kind of hate like making fun of other people's top players list, but this one is just Westbrook is 50.
Westbrook is 50. I knew you'd love that one.
Westbrook is not even like 300 on my list right now. This is insane.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we can just write it in right now then. Kenny the Jet Smith, your top 50 NBA player rankings is the worst take of the week.
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Are we in agreement that Zion at 41 is, I guess, the single most disrespectful?
I guess it's the most disrespectful. I don't know if it's the most.
Okay. Zion is better than Jaren. Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than Larry Markkinen.
Yeah.
Better than Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
Better than Jamal Murray.
I mean,
better than Chet. Better than Julius
James
Randle.
Harden.
Better than Scotty Barnes. Better than LaMelo. Better than Trey. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, the Zion placement is.
Zion played like 70 games last year. He was around. And he was kicking ass.
Obviously, Kenny the Jet Smith does not care how many games Zion played last year. He's gonna have to do it again.
In Kenny's mind, I think he thought Zion missed 50 games again.
Probably. I mean, he was like, "Yeah, we didn't see the Pelicans play at all last year."
Oh, we watched UT. Yeah. All right. Well, we love you, Zion. Max, what are we gonna write on the graphic?
You mean for best take, worst take?
Yeah, like when this is stacked up at the end of the month.
I don't know, it'll be a weird fluke week where you guys both agree on, or you both only brought one thing, right?
Yeah. Well, so the way this segment works is at the end of the month, we choose who had the worst take of the month. So right now, this is the second worst take we've listed. But when we're recapping it next week, what are we describing? Just Kenny's list? I feel like we need to pick something from the list.
Okay.
Do we want to say Zion at 41?
No, I gotta say
LeBron?
James Harden at 14. I think James Harden at 14 is worse.
Yeah, I mean they're bad. I think Zion at 41 is more disrespectful. But
Okay,
James
I
Harden
mean-
at 14 is worse. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Max, what do you
These
think?
are our two things that we're offering. I'm saying James Harden at 14 is the worst take of the week, and James is saying Zion at 41.
Well, see, Harden at 14, it's like you're showing Harden love. Zion at 41 is like you're showing hate.
You're showing Zion hate.
Okay.
But which is the worst? Which is worse?
I got you. James Harden is all NBA as an all NBA player because if you have him at 14, that's how you feel.
Okay.
Yeah. James Harden all NBA.
I think that's a terrible take. I think that's worse.
Okay, so that'll be that's what's on the when we go over it. That's what when you're like reminding us what he said. You'll say he said James Harden's all NBA.
The only way you could believe that is if you watched that one postseason game last year where he.
That's true. That's true. He did have one good game.
Yeah, the
against
game
the
where
Mavericks.
him and Paul George were just like, can we just not miss today?
Well, and they just stopped hitting shots in the fourth quarter and almost lost that game.
I think Kenny just watched that one game and was like, "Oh, James Harden."
Oh, this game's over. And the next day he was like, wait, that fat
I
boy
feel like
Luka, who I have 6, won.
I feel like it was like randomly like on NBA TV while he was filling out his card, and he was like, "Oh, damn, James Harden still got it." See, we're talking so much shit about James Harden, and James has already said that the Suns are going to destroy the Clippers tonight. This is all just setting up a major faceplant by the Phoenix Suns to start off the season, but I guess we'll have to see. I think that's all we've got for today.
Do you think Michael Porter Jr. is better than Bradley Beal?
Yes, I do.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. From what's happened recently, I'll have to say yes.
What, the race to the bottom between the two of them?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Should we get to our hot streak shooting slump?
Yeah.
All right, Max, how was your week?
I'll call it a streak.
Let's go.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm busy, got a lot going on. I'm planning this big Halloween event, so that's happening this weekend. So it's been a lot of like coordinating the details and stressful. But my parents are in town, so they've been taking me out to eat.
That's the best. I love when the parents are in town. You're like, hey, it's going to be a good week for my wallet this week.
Absolutely, yeah. You know what? And like Saturday, I got the check engine light on my car came on, which is not really streak material.
Hey, just let that live.
Not
Let that
streak
live.
adjacent.
But
That'll
hear me
be
out.
fine.
Hear me out. So they take a look. They do the diagnostic, and they're like, "Hey, we did the diagnostic and we can't figure out what's wrong. So we have to do another diagnostic. And I'm like, what's the point? You do multiple I don't know shit about cars. But they're like, normally this would cost $200, but since it's more complicated, it's going to cost us $1,200.
Just to do the diagnostic?
Yeah. I was like, oh
They're
my
just
God.
trying to steal your money, bro.
I know. And I was like freaking out, but also I drive a hybrid car and I was like, you can't just take a hybrid to like any old auto shop, Jim's Auto, and expect them to like do a good job. So I was just like, whatever, I'm just going to take this L, spend $1,200. Then I get a call the next day that said, hey, found out the issue and it's covered by your warranty. So you don't have to pay anything. You don't even have to pay for the diagnostic. You don't have to pay for the parts, the labor. Wow. You're paying $0 for this. So that's a huge dub. I'm going to take that all the way to the bank, and that's my hot streak.
That's incredible.
Yeah, what do you guys got?
What about you, James?
James, you traveled.
I'm slumping.
Oh no.
Guys, so my apartment, somehow the lights are tripping the breaker for the light switch. So in my apartment, like I'll turn on a light switch and then all the lights will die.
You really shouldn't be turning on the
But
lights.
the TV, the Wi-Fi, the fridge, everything else is on. Everything else is on. The water still works, but the lights keep tripping the breaker for the lights. So I just keep not having lights. And it's like, I don't know. I tried to reset my breaker box last night and it wasn't going. And now I'm going to need an electrician to go fix all that stuff. And that's not really fun. Also,
living in the dark right now?
dude, yeah, I just lived in the dark. Yeah. Well, dude, what also made me mad was like, I like send my building like, hey, my lights stopped working. And then like they didn't fix it till like 4 days later because they knew I was going to be out of town. And then I get back and I'm like, hey, it's broken.
They know way too much about your schedule.
Well, I told them, I was like, I'll be out of town the next 3 days. So have the guy come in whenever. But like the guy literally was like, all right, if it breaks one more time, we're going to need to do a big like, thing. And I'm like, fuck, we're going to have to do a big thing. Because I tried to turn on the light to my bedroom last night. Also, a big slump moment, Saquon Barkley.
They ran all over you.
I'm going to quote Bill Simmons because I felt the same way when he said this. In 2018, Bill Simmons said, Saquon Barkley's the best running back I've ever seen. I still feel that way. This guy's so good. Patrick, he's so good. He rushed for 176 yards on 17 attempts against the Giants.
You're taking this way better than I would be taking this if my favorite team's best player was coming to play against my team for the first time. I just want to say that I'm proud of you.
This is like, I feel like this is what OKC fans must have felt like when Kevin Durant left.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is so good. He's so good. Like, every time I watch him play, like, anytime the offensive line is just competent, it's like 50-yard rush.
Hey, but Sunday was good, though.
It was good. We had a great Sunday.
We went to the Raiders-Rams game with Jesse and a couple other people for a shoot. Was very fun.
We had hibachi
tailgate. Spoiler alerts. But yeah, that was a great way to spend Sunday. I guess I'll just use this to segue into my hot streak shooting slump. I am on a hot streak.
Let's go.
Yeah, great day on Sunday, watching the game. Really busy last couple of days, but this is like the start of the Holla 2 weekends.
Yeah.
So because it's like in the middle of the week next week, so I've been to 2 Halloween parties thus far.
Hell yeah.
One on Monday, which was not a good choice. I was wearing this green Care Bear outfit.
Of course.
Got too hot. Got too drunk, too hot.
Yeah.
But I had a great time. And once I got home, I just fell face first, just right in the doorway. It was
nice.
great.
I bet Tuesday morning was sick.
Tuesday morning was awesome. No, it actually was terrible. But it was okay. It was okay. I actually lucked out. I didn't have work on Tuesday.
Nice.
But yeah, just this is one of my favorite weeks of the year. We've got Suns basketball, baby. It's back. It's in LA. I am so excited to see how the Suns start playing a regular season. And they haven't played yet, which is why it's still a hot streak for me, because I haven't been disappointed yet. But yeah, the football game last weekend, the Halloween parties, I'm on a hot streak, and I'm hoping it continues.
All right. Well, that was Hot Streak Shooting Slump. That was today's episode. Next week, we're going to go over our top 10 shooting guards. And it'll pain you when Devin Booker is not on the list because of his weird positional.
Hey, he's the best small forward in the league.
All right. See you guys next
Jason
week.
Tatum.
Peace.